There is a thin divide between what is perceived as spiritual and paranormal, for they are forever intertwined throughout time. Traveling within the history of the world, we can find examples of spirituality that involves everything from magic, spirits, gods and goddesses, and seers or people said to be able to speak to the dead. We all have our own belief systems. We all have our own truths. So let us possibly bend those truths a bit with some insights and perspectives that may be a bit different than yours, or even give yourself validation for what you see as true. Come sit with myself and the best of the best in research, teaching, discovery, and practitioners of the day. My name is Bear Medicine Walker, and I welcome you to Spiritually Paranormal. Hey everybody, can you believe a week went by and we're last day of May? Like, I can't even comprehend that. That's just kind of crazy. Well, happy Wednesday, middle of the weekday to everybody. Holly, how's your week been going so far?
It's been productive. It's been very productive. I've been working on a secret project that was 17,000 words.
Oh, geez, Louise. Okay, that's a lot.
Somebody I know wrote a book 20 years ago. And I got the book, had somebody else hijack the book because it's just on paper, you know? It's not in book format.
Oh, that's not fun.
Yeah. And so I had them hijack it and sneak it and get it to me. So I could turn it into a real book. Now it's not going to be published, but it's turned into a book and it will be sent to them mysteriously.
Okay, well that's good. Well, that's a lot of work. I was not as productive this week. Matter of fact, Monday, which was Memorial Day here in the States, I actually said, what is this? We're already out of retrograde, so why is this still continuing? And Storm said that, I don't know, something about the planet, the way that planets were, and they're actually kind of redirecting their spin. Not a retrograde, but the way they were lined up, it was supposed to be a very difficult day. It was supposed to be something where emotions and trying to get things done wasn't going to work. Well, it worked for me. I read that at the end of the day. I should have looked at it at the beginning of the day.
Right.
So you can see everybody here. I'll let you say hi to them this time.
I can't see.
Good.
And on my side, it doesn't show me who's in the room.
Okay.
And I know better than to click that chat thing because that takes me out.
Okay. All right. So hi, Cookie. How are you, David? I hope you're well. I see we have 2 new members of Ghost Dimension, which is Bex and Sean in our group. So welcome. Mel, you've already been here, so I don't know what that is. And then Heather, welcome to Heather Stone over on YouTube. Let's see who else is here. Stephen Smith, hi. Margaret, hi. Teresa, hello. Let's see if they're missing anybody. Shelby, hi. How are you? So hello to everybody, and if you have stuff that you want to add in the comment section, please do while we get talking. Today's topic is about how to address or how to assist our kids, right? Whether they're small kids or teenage kids that have gifts, no matter how they are. If they see spirit, or they hear spirit, or they're talking to their imaginary friends and you don't see them, how do we support that, and how do we do that? And I'm gonna let Holly go first, and she actually can tell you a little story.
I've got a story from just this past weekend. But first, since you were talking about retrograde, Mercury is not in retrograde right now, but Pluto is in retrograde until October 11th. That has you paying attention to how you're adjusting to the changes that are happening in your life.
Not well. Okay. Got it.
on the 17th, Saturn goes into retrograde until November 4th. And Saturn.
November?
Till November, yeah. And so that Saturn wants you to look at how you're manifesting your reality.
Okay.
And then we have Neptune going into retrograde on the 30th until December 6th. And Neptune, hold on, let me see. It highlights the spiritual aspects of your life, and it really highlights whether or not you have that peace and balance and tranquility in your life. If you don't, it's going to highlight those areas to say, look how chaotic this is. You need to change it.
I've already had enough of that crap already.
Messenger. I'm the messenger. I didn't make them go into retrograde.
Whatever.
I'm just the messenger.
Nikki. I see Nikki's in here too. Hi, Nikki and Shelby. Hi. Okay, now I'm going to hand it over to you because, the cat just came in and told me you're on. So you're on.
All right. So Saturday, me, my husband, and my two of my grandsons, Leo and Gabriel, went down to Chattanooga. We went to the battlefield, the Chickamauga battlefield. My husband, of course, loves anything having to do with military wars and old history and all that stuff. So, I thought I would let him go and experience that. And the boys had never been. And there's this big tower. It's got like 127 steps, I think it is. Ooh. And so when I was a kid, I used to go up and down it a lot. Well, I went up once. About died.
Yeah, I would have been
on
the bottom like a crime scene tape.
So, but there is a legend of this creature spirit. Many people have different aspects or beliefs of what it is, called Green Eyes, that is supposedly haunts not only the battlefield, but especially that area around the tower. Now, the Battle of Chickamauga was the second bloodiest battle in U.S. history. So that's pretty huge right there. I can't remember how many thousands of soldiers, but it was a lot. All right. And I was reading up some of the stuff because I was looking for what I'm about to tell you that Leo told us. So on the way there, we're getting close. And I talk about the Green Eyes being in the tower and whether or not the boys are going to go up in the tower to see Green Eyes. Typically, you're going to see them at night. You're not going to notice that during the day. Yep. So Robert pulls up a thing that tells about Green Eyes and how some people think it's one of the Civil War soldiers, and some people think it was there before the soldiers. And Leo says to me, and Leo is 7. He is extra sensitive. He has told me all kinds of things that were true that he should not have known. Oh, hold on a second. Someone's at the door. Hold on.
Okay, no problem. That's real life, guys. So we're just letting you know. She'll come back and finish the story. Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm back.
All right, go ahead. I see Ruth is here too.
So
Hi,
he said to me, Grandma, you know that voice in my head that is always right? I said, yeah, I know. He said, well, he says that Green Eyes was a soldier. And on his 17th day of his job, so his 17th day of being a soldier, that he got really angry because his girlfriend got killed. And every day after that, he got angrier and angrier and angrier. Okay, first of all, he said, his name's John Rogers, by the way. I said, okay, that's specific. That's like very specific. He doesn't know anybody named John or Rogers or anything like that. So I'm like, he just pulled that one out of thin air. And so on his 40th day of his job, and his job being a soldier there at the battlefield, he got killed. And when he died, he had so much anger in him that he ended up being almost like a soul eater. He was gathering and grabbing all the energy of all the other souls and all the other soldiers that died in that area where he was, which made him, a more powerful spirit, which turned him into Green Eyes. And that's why he is the way he is today.
Wow.
Hmm.
Did you look
So
him up?
Robert and I started looking for
Oh,
information to see if we could find a John Rogers that was at the Battle of Chickamauga. Yeah, there were a few.
isn't that crazy?
Crazy.
You know, kids are, especially because obviously your grandson is in a nurturing environment for that, and that's really good. Um, my daughter has a gift, but she doesn't want to use it, doesn't want to
Yeah.
admit it, doesn't like it, doesn't like when I do it and she's around. But I've always said, it's your choice. You can or you don't have to, either way, Um, but I've worked with little kids, and I told you guys a story. I think it was last week about Tay when she was like 3 in the car, and she saw my dad who had passed before she was born. I believe, I don't know if you do, but I believe we're all born with that sense for us open. And I believe that society has taught us, like when we were kids, I know, because I went through it, that it's not normal. It's weird. You need to
Right.
be
Right.
locked up somewhere. You're a crackpot, blah, blah, blah. And I remember seeing things when I was very small. But my parents nurtured that. They didn't encourage it, but they nurtured that. They
They didn't
listened.
make you feel like you were crazy.
Right. Absolutely 100%. Absolutely 100%.
And I think that's important to know, that we don't make kids feel like they're insane or dismiss it like, oh, you're just young and you just don't know what you're talking about. That's just make believe. That's not real, because it's very real to them. They see what they see. And I had told a story before about Leo when they first moved in. Leo wasn't but 3. My grandmother on my mom's side, she died back in 2002 or 3, a long time ago, way before he was born. I don't have any photos of her, neither does Michaela. No one ever talks about her anymore because it's been so long ago.
Right.
And he said, "Did you know I have a great great grandmother?" I said, "Yeah." And he described her to a T. He said she's here all the time. She plays with us.
Wow. That's cool. And again, and I've worked with, and I'm sure you have over the years, had people that have gotten hold of you that says, hey, what do I do? My kid is scared to go to sleep at night, or my kid is not growing out of the I have an invisible friend age, right? So they can be really super tuned into emotions around them, and they have sensitivity of knowing more than they should at that age, like your grandson, right?
Right, right.
And we have to honor that. And I think so many people, even today, I think too many people are still in that place of no, there's no imaginary friend, and you keep telling them this and telling them this.
It's because they're projecting their fears onto the children. Yeah.
Well, and do you or do you not feel that it is also generational? Like if somebody is, like your great grandmother say, was gifted, and it comes through, do you feel that comes through genetically, I guess would be a way to put it?
Oh yeah, I believe that. Yeah.
My birth family, it hit every other generation, which I found interesting, that either the generation before me just didn't want to deal with it, or it skipped one.
Well, because like Stacy and Tracy and Michaela, they all 3 have gifts as well, but they don't want to see those things. So they shut that up. They put the wall up and they close their mind to it.
But they were adults when that happened, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Or more older, right? They weren't.
Well, no, when they were, when they got older, they put that wall up. They shut it down. But when they were younger, they were open to it. They thought it was cool. That they liked it to a certain extent.
Yeah,
some of the things did scare them, just like it scared me when I was a kid.
Well, yeah, I think it does scare you. I look back when I was like 13, I think it was the first time that I had a conversation with a spirit. And that was my grandmother. And she came in to me 3 days after she passed.
Right.
And she was as solid as you and I are. And she sat on the end of the bed and she was talking to me and asking me to take care of my mom. Um, and I was like, okay. And she told me things that would happen in my mom's lifetime. And it was actually spot on. That's why I've never forgotten it.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad opening, because it was in the winter, it was between Christmas and New Year's. She passed on Christmas Eve. And he saw her. And he just quietly pulled the door shut and left it alone. Never mentioned it again. But that was like the first time. And it was good because I knew her. But the stuff that came later, it really did. In my teenage years, it scared the crap out of me. And people that were my friends left because of what I was able to do. They all thought I was going to be able to read their mind or something.
Oh yeah,
And,
yeah, totally. Totally. What am I thinking? What am I thinking? Oh my gosh, that annoys me so much. And then you get those people that want to test you. So they put all the walls up and all the barriers up, but they want you to read them. I'm like, you got to open the door. If you want me to know, you got to open the door. But
Well,
one thing with kids that you can do is teach them about different crystals and stones that for protection and guidance. You can also teach them the art of grounding and getting out and being in nature and putting your bare feet on the ground. That's real science, people. It's not make believe. It works. And smudging. Leo will come and ask me, Grandma, can I have some smudge? If he's asking for it, because it's not all the time, then I go ahead and I light him a stick, and he will go through the house where he feels necessary and smudge what he needs to smudge.
but that's really good. Um, I think that in the year, like pretty much now where we're at, like 2023, I think it's more accepted that it can happen with kids.
Yeah.
Um, I know there was actually Chip Coffey, who's an amazing medium, and he's been on all kinds of stuff. He actually had a show out a couple years back that was about kids. They were called in for children. Go ahead.
No,
Oh, I
go
thought
ahead.
you took it off. Okay. He worked with kids from like 6, 7 years old to early teenage that were really struggling. Like, they were pulled back from their families. They were quiet, or they were having issues at school or whatever. And then when they realized what it was, he came in to work with them with other mediums, and they all helped these children develop the gift, but also learn how to properly shut it down if they didn't want it to be.
Right.
And I think that's super, super important. And I'm grateful for all the parents out there that actually do seek help from people to assist their kids. I had a little girl, the last one I had was a little girl a few years back. Her mom got hold of a friend of mine, and she said, I don't know what to do with my daughter. She doesn't want to go into her bedroom. She's scared. She keeps pointing that something's in the closet, and we don't know what to do with her. So I went on actually Skype at the time and went with her. And her daughter was only like 4 or 5. And so I said to her, I go, so mom was there. And I said, Mom, what's going on? And she kind of told me. And I said, well, and I don't remember the little girl's name, but I asked her, what's going on? Well, there's somebody in my closet, and she comes out into my room, and she wants to tuck me in at night, or she'll come in and watch me while I'm playing, and I don't like it because I don't know who it is, and it's like the boogeyman. I forget what the word she had for it. So we talked it through, and that's exactly what I told her. Like what you do with your grandson, take the smudge, right, and go through. And I said, make her a part of it. So we stood there, and she did it. She did it in her entire room. And then she sat down. I says, now I want you to ask out loud, who's here with me? So she did, and I could tell who it was, and I didn't know any of the family history. So I said, do you think maybe it could be Grandma? And she kind of looked at me, and her mom goes, oh my God. She says her mom just died 3 months ago, and she was really close with her. I said, this is the energy that I got coming for me to see. So the little girl said, oh. And then she mentioned this is why she wants me to play with this certain doll all the time, because she gave it to her. So there was all this like stuff, so that now the little girl was like, oh, it's Grandma. And it was. That's the energy I felt, and my friend also felt, and the mother. And the little girl it was just, okay, then nothing to be scared about. It was okay, and Grandma could visit me. And every now and then, she still comes back to this little girl. And I just think that's wonderful. I mean, to know and allow children to understand that we're not all just here, that when we go over, we're still energy that goes over on the other side.
Yeah.
So I love
it. He has even talked about past lives that he's lived. He talks about in one life, he saved me from the water. There was one life where he was like a lumberjack or something. And I remember that day, it just came out of the blue. We were just driving down the road, headed to the store, and that came out of nowhere.
But that is, to me, it's amazing. It's just, again, because he's in a nurturing environment. Yeah. And that's something that I believe in as well, that throughout the lives, we are in our soul family. So I think a lot of the people that show up actually in our lives, even in this lifetime, we're attracted to each other at some point. And we could even be in the same family, but different relationships or different kind of relationships in that. So when the kids come through with that stuff again, sometimes it's just about them releasing that. Like he told you that, now he can let it go. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't have to look at that anymore because I just told Grandma we were this and that, and I think it helps them to settle more.
Yeah. And also doesn't make them feel weird or unusual, and they feel safe talking about what they see or sense.
Well, we are weird.
What?
We are different. Ruthie, help me here. You owe me. She owes me. Okay, let me see here. Joyce Cole, let's see. Oh, okay, yeah, that's not good. Joyce says, can you read that? I don't know if you can even see that. My parents kept telling me that they were nightmares when I was a child. That's
not always, no.
No. Actually, I don't, even as a kid, I really didn't have nightmares. I always see that in between spot. So it was always messages for me. Okay,
right. Same here.
Okay. My grandma supported it. This is Teresa. My mom, not so much. And that's why I love staying with my grandma's at my grandma's house. Yeah. It's amazing how generationally people have different beliefs, or they support in a different way. And it could have been like her grandmother knew it because she had it as a child too, and maybe just kept it to herself. I mean, I could see that my grandmother doing that. She wouldn't tell anybody anything like that.
Yeah, my grandmother had quite a few stories where she had seen like her husband's dad, after he died, had just walked right in the house, like physically walked into the house and sat down waiting on her husband to come home.
Yeah, that's a little crazy. Ruth just said, yeah, both of you are weird.
Oh, Ruth.
How dare
oh my gosh, how can she say such a thing? Takes one to know one.
Yeah, that's what Ness says. Hey, I'm weird too. Ruth owes me because she snitched on me when I fell. She owes me that. Snitched on me to my daughter. Okay. Oh, it didn't work because I enjoyed chatting with a priest that later, as I got older, was told had passed over 16 years ago before I was born. He found them to be very amusing to him about no spirits here. That's interesting.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, and I don't know if your religious background, I grew up in a Catholic family. I consider myself a recovering Catholic at this point for a lot of years. But I went to Catholic schools and everything. And anytime you brought that kind of stuff up, out to the hallway,
Yeah.
out to the hallway. I can't
Yeah.
tell you how many times I got kicked out to the hallway. And it was just a thing. And there were a couple teachers that would walk by and look at me, and it was like, really? I said, yep. So, they don't like it.
Right. I just kept all those stories to myself. I didn't tell anyone until I was quite a lot older.
Well, I made the mistake my senior year in high school of letting people know. And they brought a team in from Wayne State University that was studying, like, being able to have, they called it back then, they called it ESP.
Right.
And they did tests on me, like blind tests, where I'd be in another room and they'd flip a card, or they'd show a letter or a color, and I would have to write down as I was seeing this stuff. So that kind of opened up for me, all my friends finding out what I was capable of doing, and they all took off. They were scared. They didn't want to know.
That was too weird for them. They couldn't handle it.
No, it was a lot, and I get it. But back then, we were kind of at the beginnings in the 70s of books coming out, right?
Yeah.
People stepping out, like Rosemary Altea came out. Sandra Brown, I think, came out. We had, who else did we have back then? But the books were starting to come out very slowly. And then the doctor, I can't remember his name now. He started about death and dying, and about there was more. And he actually built a chamber that you could go into, and it was in warm water, that you'd lay in this chamber, and no stimulus, they shut the lights out. And he talked about NDEs and all that kind of stuff, and how children are affected by this stuff. It's really important.
Yeah.
I think that we support that.
Yeah.
Not like a ghost show, not like certain people who are like running around on amok doing weird
silly
stuff.
Things. Right. Yeah. Go to the light.
Whatever. That's such a good one, right?
Let me know how that works out for you.
So, yeah, right. So physical symptoms. What do you think are some of the physical symptoms if your child isn't telling you about what's going on with them?
Well, if you see a child, if one of your children is being just nervous all the time, or skittish, constantly scared to go into certain rooms, you need to give them the space to feel safe to tell you about why they're afraid of those things, and not make them feel like, like it's not real.
Right. There's also, they say, stomach aches, and they keep having headaches, or they don't want to do something, or they're hiding from you, or they're not talking, like they're a talkative child, and then all of a sudden they stop. That's the best thing to do. You can't dismiss when this stuff happens. You have to support your child, and right. Like you say, give them a sacred space that they can talk to you about it. And usually right. When you do that, except in your case, because you do this all the time and he's living with you like that, it usually will trigger everything to disappear, because the kids won't be scared of what's going on anymore. You have to allow them to talk.
Yeah. For the most part, he never seems too afraid of anything. He hasn't come to me anyway, and he would be right on top of me if something really scared him. Grandma.
Yeah, but that's good. That's a good thing. He knows he can trust that relationship, and that you're not going to say it's not a good thing. It's not. And that's also not saying that certain things can not be good that come through, and you want to protect your child, and you want them to know it's safe. And like you said, give them the smudge stick and he's running through the house. So if they want to get rid of it, let them get rid of it. Sometimes also they'll have, I had a kid that did this too. They'd be in certain situations that were not typical in a typical day, and they'd be freaked out about it. Like, what's going, and they back up because they see something, or maybe they, like you said, they've experienced it in a previous life. But you got to pay attention to that so you can support your kids in kind of dealing with it. And I will say, and I'm sure you would say the same thing, a lot of people still aren't on the page with it. So like if your kid's in school and you say, oh yeah, my kid sees spirit, they're going to think you're whack and probably call up, friend of the court or whoever, like, hey, we got a wacko mom over here.
Right. Let them call me. Let them call me.
Oh, yeah,
they can call me.
Yeah. What, do you have any, I guess, like I would call them exercises, like things to do to help him or children to work with it in a good way? Do you have anything?
It's more, I think, just talking about it more often, and you can do the little fun things of see how intuitive they are, and you can hold two different things in your hands and have them pick the one that is this color or that color, or you can ask them, what do you have in your hand, and see if they can see what's in there. You can do all those little tests to see how intuitive they are. I remember when in my first marriage, I raised my niece, little Holly. Funny that she was the same name, but anyway, she was like super duper, like, oh my gosh, since I can remember, since she could speak, she would say some stuff. I remember one day I was going to go get ice cream, and I put them all in the car, didn't tell them what I was going to do because I didn't want to hear all about, they would have been losing their minds wanting the ice cream all the way to the ice cream place. So it's just going to be a surprise. I'm backing out of the driveway, and little Holly says, I want chocolate. I'm looking in the rearview mirror at her, and I said, what? Chocolate what? What do you want? What do you mean chocolate? She says, aren't we going to go get ice cream? I'm like, no, we're not. No, we're not. But there was one day we had gone to the doctor after being at her grandfather's house, and he would do readings all the time, and he would test her and ask her all kinds of questions. So she was in that mode, and she was talking about what Peppa. So the nurse was like, what is she talking about? And I was very reluctant to say what it was. So I went ahead and say, because they wouldn't leave it alone. And she's like, well, okay. Little Holly's maybe 4. She says, what color car do I drive? Holly nailed it. How many kids do I have? She nailed it. What color house do I live in? She nailed it. So she runs out and gets another nurse, brings another nurse in, and asks the same questions. Holly nails it every time. They went and got the doctor. She nailed every single one that came in that room that day.
And they all run out afterwards and switch people because they didn't want. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's a good story, though. That's a really good story. Nessa says her son, when he was 18 months old, he used to chase bubbles around the house, which were orbs, and play with somebody who we couldn't see, called man. He just called him man, 18 months old. We let him carry on, no harm done, and now he's 22 years old. Yet, that's the way you have to do it, and I feel, though, sometimes I feel for, like with the little girl that I gave the example of, if their parents aren't aware of that stuff, it can freak people out a little bit. And, you want to kind of explain it so that it's in a way that the kids aren't scared, nor are the parents. And right. I think the parents are usually more scared than the kids most of the time because they don't know what to deal with it, or they don't know how to deal with it.
Right, exactly.
So it's always interesting. But like I said, they can also see things that aren't good. But hopefully we can make sure that they understand, the older they get, how to protect themselves psychically or however you want to call it. But yeah, it's really kind of crazy. Let's see what else here we got. Oh, this is cool. My boy remembers man. That's what he'd call him. Man was a soldier. And that's a lot, That's like a big thing, and you just can't put him off. Mm-hmm. It's really scary. When my dad, just probably about 3-4 months before he passed, We were in the living room of my mom and dad's house, and my niece was staying with my parents because my sister had died when I was 18, and so the kids were like 10 and 11. So my niece stayed. Even in college, she moved in with my mom and dad because it was home. My grandmother, or her grandmother, and my mom and dad were like parents for her, but she was little, right? So we were in the room. My dad was talking to me, and he knew back then that I could see and hear things, and it was really uncharacteristic for him to ask. But he said, "Hey, I gotta tell you something." I says, "Okay." He goes, "I keep seeing these three people in the house." And I looked and I'm like, "What?" Because I wasn't thinking about it. It's not something my dad would commonly speak about. He said, "Yeah." And he described them: an older woman, maybe 40-ish, a woman who's in her 20s, and a young man who was like in his 30s, right? And he says, "They keep popping up." I said, "What do you mean they keep popping up?" "They're walking in the hallway constantly by his bed and all this." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." So my niece heard it because she was getting ready to go to college that day, take her classes. And she walked out and she's, "Grandpa, what'd you say?" So he described it to her. She said to me, when mom died and we were moved in, both kids were moved into the house because my brother-in-law was a hot mess and he had to work and all that kind of stuff. She said, "I saw those same three people." Like, and she described them to my dad, and my dad goes, "Yeah, what is that? Like, what is that?" And I'm like, "Okay."
Energy from the other side.
But I saw them too.
Yeah.
I saw them from the time I was a kid. So I was like, "Okay, what are these people?" And the older woman was not nice. Let's just put it that way. She was kind of a itch with a B. And the younger woman was kind of docile. And the young man was kind of more helpful. He kind of made sure that the older one didn't do whatever she wanted to do. And I had a lot of sleep paralysis and stuff when I was a kid. And she was the one kind of causing it because I would see her and she'd be pressing on me. And then he'd come in and make her move. And the younger woman would yell. This is the same thing that happened to my niece when she was like 10 and 11 years old. And I felt that whenever I saw them, we had a death in the family. And I had figured that out by the time she brought it up. So I really think that my niece saw them because of my sister passing. And then my dad, he died 2.5 months after. So it was like almost like they're coming to tell you to beware, this is going to occur or something's going to occur. So I thought that was wild. And she didn't like it. That's the only time I ever heard her speak about it. Never again. But she must have had something because she saw them.
Yeah.
And she never brought it up. All those years, she never brought it up. So
isn't that crazy?
I feel bad because I know how it was a struggle for me when I was younger. And it's like, in my home, it was cool, but outside of my home, you couldn't talk about it.
Don't you wish you could go back in time and ask the questions? Like my grandmother's house, what's odd to me as an adult, as a child, I never thought about it. I was grateful it was there. But you know those door latches, the little hooks?
Yep.
There was one of those on the kitchen door at my grandmother's house. The kitchen was right off the living room. The door shut, the handle would shut, but so why was there a lock on the kitchen door from the living room? And when it got dark, I could feel something straight down. If I'm sitting on the couch and I can see through the kitchen, on the back part of the kitchen, it felt evil, like it was staring at me. And first thing I do is jump up, pull that door to, and lock that latch. But I would love to ask my grandmother, why was that lock on the door for the kitchen of all things?
Yeah, that's really interesting.
It wasn't like the kitchen door would just swing open. It would close. Have a good one.
But yeah, you got to look too. Like that was when, like I said, everything was kind of starting. You know, we had the call. Dionne Warwick had that 1-800 line, call the psychic, you know.
Yeah.
And so it was like there, but it wasn't there in the way it is now. And look at the Warrens, you know, Lorraine and Ed Warren. Look at the stuff that they started doing. And she had an amazing gift. I mean, she really did. But it was like, I actually saw her work with kids. There was a college show, Paranormal State, I think it was called. It was on for a number of years. And actually, Katrina Weidman was in it, along with a couple other people that are now still in the paranormal field. And I remember Lorraine Warren going in, and she would work with like children that were in the house, or even the young people that were in college. You know, they were still like 18, 19 years old. And I think that's the difference. I think I would have liked to have had a Lorraine Warren in my family that I could have sat and talked with, so I would have gotten a better understanding of it at a young age.
Yeah. Yeah. When Leo starts talking, or Gabriel starts talking about spirits or whatever, Michaela will send them upstairs to me. She's like, no, no, we're not doing it. No, stop talking.
Did you have anybody around you when you were younger that you could talk to about it?
No. I must have at some point said something about the ghosts that come out of the closet, or the thing in the back of the kitchen, because for some reason I don't remember ever telling anybody after I was seeing them and everything, because I felt like no one was going to listen to me anyway. So I think probably before I can remember, I might have said something and people just shushed me or made me feel like it wasn't real. And so I never said anything about it. Now, here's an interesting story, though. So every single night, I know some of you have heard this before, when I'd spend a night with my grandmother, don't look at the closet, Holly. Don't look at that stupid closet. Don't. And the people would come out and circle the freaking bed, and I'd cover my head up until I fell asleep. Well, I never, ever told that story to anyone. And it was years later, I was either a preteen or a teenager, and I was at my grandmother's birthday party where the whole family would get together. And there were some of us sitting around, and we were telling ghost stories. One of my cousins tells that story to a T. I still didn't say anything, but I was like, oh, she saw it too. She saw it too. I'm not crazy. She saw it too. But I didn't say a word, because everybody was like, oh, yeah, whatever, you know, to her. And I was like, she's not crazy. So then years later, my older cousin, we are all sitting around, and that was the thing we all did back in the day when we had sleepovers. We told ghost stories.
Right.
She freaking tells that story too. So that's 3 of us now have told the same exact story. The same exact thing happening.
What was the house? What was the house? Was it an old house, or?
Yeah, this is the funny thing. My grandmother's house, my cousin lives in it now. I don't know why she does. I wouldn't live in it. But anyway, it's on
a trip to visit your cousin.
It's on the side of a hill that's called, they nicknamed Goat Hill, because it's so steep on one side, nothing but billy goats can get up that hill, is what they say. Well, back in the Civil War, her house was a gun shack. And the soldiers, they thought they were on Missionary Ridge when they were actually on Goat Hill. So they all set up there on that Goat Hill thinking they were on the ridge, and then somehow they got word that, you're in the wrong place, and they had to then pick up and move. But if you go to the top of the hill, and I've been up in the woods, the trenches are still there.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. Well, cool, but yeah, spooky.
So it's a lot of history right there.
Yeah. Well, I would think that they could have used it for more than that too, you know, just resting overnight, or if people were sick or injured, you know, that could
all kinds. I remember very distinctly, me, my cousin Kim, and my cousin Larry, we were the 3 that were always together at Grandma's. She had an unfinished basement, and it was real tall because it was on the side of a hill, and it was a dirt floor, and there was a big giant boulder under the house. And we used that as our playhouse. As silly as that sounds. And there was a big piece of sheetrock down there, and we would draw on it and everything. So we were down there. My grandmother had gone to the store because back in the day, they left us little kids alone.
Yeah, I know. I think back on that. I think about kids, like how I was, the age I was, riding my bike all over the place. Yeah, that's not the way it is anymore.
No, not anymore. So we were there at the house, and we were underneath the house, drawing on the thing, and it was our clubhouse, waiting on Grandma to get back. We all three heard very distinct footsteps upstairs. We took off running because, Grandma's back from the store. She's going to bring us candy.
Right.
Go get candy. We run up there, run all through the house. Grandma's not in the house. So we all run back out on the porch, and we're looking around like, where's Grandma? And she had just started up the trail.
Oh.
She was all the way at the end of the trail at the road, which is a good distance, probably more than 500 feet away.
Did that end your trips to the rock underneath there? Or did you guys go back?
Not as often. But yeah, I mean, it was very distinct, and we all three heard it because we all ran up thinking, oh, well, we're going to get some candy now. Grandma's back. No, she was nowhere to be found in the house.
That's crazy. When I was just like, I want to say 7th, 8th grade, I actually went and talked to a priest because I was in Catholic school. The rectory and church were right there attached to the grade school. And I have a lot, this may be really weird, but maybe it was because I was in that culture of the schools for 12 years. I don't know. But I had several over the years, priests that I was very close to. They came over to my mom, and I would invite them. And my mom goes, "You're what?" I go, "Yeah, Father Matthew's coming over for dinner." What am I going to cook? Because my mom was not a cook, right? Not at all. And so I had several priests over the years, and I had several nuns that was good friends with me even after I got out of high school. They actually came to my wedding. I invited them. I mean, they were friends as well, right? So right. I remember going, and this particular priest was actually our pastor of the church. And I went and I told him, I says, I've got something I want to and I'm kind of nervous about sharing it with you because I don't want you to get mad. And he was like, well, why would I get mad? He said, oh my God. I go, no, it's kind of scary, So I told him what I could see and what I could hear. And he listened, and he says, well, I don't doubt you. And he says, there's nothing wrong. And he said, throughout Christ's life, Jesus's life, there were things that happened with him and other people that were around him. So you should not fear it. He says, because it's a gift from God that he gave you this, right? And as long as you use it in that manner, you'll be good, and if you need me, let me know. But he says, I will tell you this. I'll never forget. He got really serious. And I was like really scared. I was like, oh, I don't want to hear it. He said, don't ever tell anybody else.
Yeah.
Right now. Don't ever tell anybody else. And I'm like, okay. He says, you can come talk to me all you want, anytime you want, day or night, I'll be here. And this was when I was like 13.
Yeah.
And he was like, but don't tell anybody else. He says, they won't understand. And that's why I held it way back until I got in high school because, and it was kind of, you see the commercials on TV.
It was hard enough to fit in as it was back then. I mean, good Lord.
Yeah, I didn't fit in anyway.
And now it's more mainstream. I mean, everybody is.
Well, yeah, everybody is. And it also brings out the people that say it is and aren't,
loads of those, a lot of fake people out there. Oh, let me read your cards. Oh, I've got a message for you. What is it?
A discussion the other day in a group, actually yesterday, somebody posted my mom and dad had in I would put them probably in their 40s. He said my mom and dad passed this past year, right? And he says, I really want to be able to connect to them and talk to them because I want to make sure they're all right, which is a common thing that, people that don't know, or they kind of aren't in that mindset, anymore. And they're like, does anybody know a medium or, somebody I can talk to? And I'm in this group and I'm like watching and waiting. And they're giving all these people's names. And I'm like, yeah, no. So I got on there and I said, I'm going to tell you a little secret. I said, yes, there are some really good mediums like Tyler Henry. He's amazing. And I don't know if you remember, but when we were on BTR, he was like really young. He was like maybe 14, 15 years old. And we did have him on the show one time. And he was amazing. He still is amazing. And for him, it kind of is okay. He'll dial into something that is important to the person, but it's not always what they want to hear. It's what they need to hear, right?
Right,
so
right.
This is what I told him. I said, you have to understand, mediumship is not put a quarter in the phone and dial up, hey, I need to talk to so-and-so.
Right,
it doesn't work that way. And I said, and if somebody tells you that's how it works and that they can do it that way, you go the other direction because it's BS. I says, you don't know. That's not how the gift works. So there's a lot of people, and that kind of scares me too about kids. I actually have a teenager where I got Phoenix from, where he was at the rescue rehab down there, and there was a teenager who's 16. She's supposed to get a hold of me because she has these gifts, and her mom says, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know. So I've given this child, here where I am, get a hold of me when you're ready, and let's do it. And I'll help you with some things. And I just think that's so important that people, and that's another thing for people that are listening, if you have the gift and you understand it, you don't even have to be using it. But if you understand it because you've gone through it, you need to make yourself available for young people and for children. Because, it's kind of a crazy world out there, and there's a lot of crackpots out there, and it's just not good.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that just want to tell you what you want to hear, and they can sense what you want to hear. I'm not that person. Don't come to me. If you just want to hear a specific thing, don't come ask me, because I'm not going to tell you that specific thing. It's going to be whatever the truth is.
Right. And sometimes that's kind of hits a nerve with people, I think.
And this is another thing, and I've done it many times, and I think you've done it too. Is where we'll open the floor and let people ask questions, and then stop asking if whoever loved one on the other side is okay. They are way better okay than we are. Yep. Way better. We're never going to tell you otherwise. Mm-hmm. They are freaking golden, living their best life while we're in this life struggling. So 100%. Stop asking. Stop wasting your question on asking if your loved one on the other side is okay, because they are.
Well, what's funny about that is I don't like to do mediumship with bringing spirits through when I do my readings on Tuesday, when I pull a card for them and I kind of tell them what the situation is.
I am so annoyed with it. It drives me nuts.
Because they show up and they're there, and it's like, okay, so like I did that yesterday. I just said, I don't know what this is about, but this is what they're showing me, and I'm just going to give it to you. I don't know, and I'm not going down this rabbit hole right now, because that's not what I'm here for. But
again, you have no control over who comes through and who doesn't.
They're pushy too. They're really
good Lord, they won't leave you alone. Do you remember the story about when I went to the Tong Ren class and me handing the lady the crystal?
You've had so many stories with your crystals.
Okay, so this one, I always keep crystals with me, spare crystals that I'm okay with giving away. Those are my crystals that belong to somebody else, and when that somebody crosses my path, they end up with the crystal.
Right.
So I go to this Tong Ren class, and Tong Ren is little cuckoo anyway. It works. It's amazing. But if I explain it to you, you're going to be like, yeah, that's weird. So Tong Ren it follows the guidelines of acupuncture, but it's energy work. So no one touches you. They all have these little rubber dolls, and you sit in a circle, and they're tapping on the pressure points on the doll to work on you.
Okay.
So yeah, that's weird. But it works. It's absolutely
Root out? No, tapping. You're talking about tapping, right?
tapping. They're tapping. They have little hammers and a little doll with all the pressure points marked all over the doll. And the guide, the master, he is telling you where to hit the hammer. And everybody in the circle, except the person who everybody's working on, is tapping on these dolls to move that energy.
Okay.
And remove the blockage. So I'm at one of those. And there's this lady that comes in, and you can feel her energy is so thick and it's so sad and depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And she comes in, she sits down, and she's a couple of seats or so away from me. And Spirit is saying to me, give her a crystal, give her a crystal. I'm like, nope. I don't know this lady. This lady don't know me. I don't know how she's going to react. Nope. And the whole time, that Spirit is telling me, give her the crystal, give her the crystal. I don't do it. I leave, she leaves, done. So then the next time I'm in that class, guess who shows up at the last minute? I'm thinking, oh, good, she's not here. This is going to be great. Then she walks in the door right before the class starts, and I'm like, shit. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to wait till Spirit says something right away. Spirit is like, give her the crystal. The whole time, Spirit is telling me, give her the crystal. So I reach around toward the end of it and get the crystal out of my bag, and I'm holding it in my hand. She can't see what I've got. She has no idea. So at the end of it, I turn to her with my hand still clenched. She don't know what's in my hand. And I hold my hand out, about to open it, and she burst in tears. I said, it's just a crystal. It's just a crystal. It's just a crystal. And she hugged me and thanked me for noticing her pain.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really awesome.
And then I never saw her again.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you something right now. Usually you're the one that says something I don't want to hear. We've had, for the past, probably 10 minutes, and it's still here. There's a dragonfly, and it's staying, like, hovering like a helicopter right now in front of my screen looking outside, and that's for you.
What are they saying?
Well, it's a representation of something with you, but it's like really kind of magical. I also get it's a female, but it's like you'll recognize through the dragonfly, like you're going to be seeing a lot of dragonflies. And it's going to be a specific person that it's linked to, but it's going to be like validation for something for you. But it's right here. It moves a little bit this way, a little bit. It's right, and it's probably about 4 feet away from my screen.
Well, this week I've kind of, because, Monday I wasn't working out, so I wasn't in the office. And I wrote 19 books in 1 month. Wrote, illustrated, published 19 books because I worked on them day and night. And I'm a bit tired, but I still have more to do. And so this week I'm not doing that, but I'm taking on that special project, and I just finished that. And that special project has something to do with that dragonfly, with that person that dragonfly represents. It just went
off to the right, and as soon as you said that, it's right back in front of my screen.
Yeah.
It's the same dragonfly.
Well, the story was supposed to resemble that person's history, a part of her person's life. Somebody else wrote it, but that's what that was about. And I've been struggling about which stories do I write next. And I want to kind of hurry up and finish and get Leo and Gabriel's adventures done, because I'm committed to myself, nobody else, to write 5 more. And I've already got them done as far as written for the most part. I need to do some editing, but I got to do all the illustrations before I move on to Wyatt and the Wolf stories.
Right.
Because those are going to be more stories for children, like what we're talking about today, to help them understand gifts and things. I've already written a book. One of Leo and Gabriel's adventures has crystals in the back of it, because it's the crystal digging adventure.
And crystals are really important. Like you were saying, to give to adults, they're a great way to share with kids. Like, and you let them, like I have, same thing. I have a big wooden thing that was carved way up. It's like over 200 years old, this piece is. It's been handed down through families, and this woman gave it to me. It's not pretty, but it's you can tell how old it is. And that's what I do. I throw crystals and stones in there. And again, the dragonfly just came up and kissed the screen for you. But giving them and allowing them to pick through, they'll be just like adults where they'll go for one. And not because it's shinier, but because it's the energy. So books like this for kids, that's just awesome.
I want to do like meditation for kids and expand on the crystal one. On the back of the Crystal Digging Adventure, Leo and Gabriel's Crystal Digging Adventure, there's 3 pages of, I think it's the 25, I think, most common, maybe 30, 25 or 30 of the most common crystals. And it's pictures of what they look like and a little brief description of kind of what they do for you. So I want to do more of that with Wyatt and the wolf.
So is it going to be like geared to a little bit older?
Yeah, a little bit older. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So remember, when you see the dragonfly later today, remember this one is here for you. Okay.
Yep.
I just this is here. This is funny. Like, that's how I pick my crystals when they actually pick me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ruth brought this up, and I put it up here, but we were yakking. She remembers when we all were over on the radio show, and we were there for a long time. We were there for a few years. And she says, do you remember the lady who would jump from show to show asking about her relationship with a certain person, and she gets so mad because everyone on every show gave her the same answer? It's like, it's like, let's shop around. You better shop around, you know. And if it's truly somebody that's reading through spirit, you can't.
This is the thing when we open the floor, and if we're going to do something like that, it drains us so much. And most people are so greedy and so needy for a specific answer. They usually ask, is this the one? First of all, if you're asking me if whoever it is in your life is the one, they're not the one. Because you know when it's the one, and you don't need to ask anyone outside yourself.
Absolutely.
So if you're going to ask me, I'm going to always tell you, no.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I have, I told you guys, I told you, Lizzie, when I was talking to Lizzie, this was a few years back, and she had been tossing cards, and she kept picking them up, tossing them, and they kept telling her the same thing, and she got hold of me. I said, well, you think I'm going to tell you anything different? Because I know, but you're being silly, And it's like, yeah, no, I know. So, I mean, everybody's, we all have a little bit of that in us. But yeah, it's, you have to listen and do the work. And I think part of it too, at least for me, I get away from that stuff. I'll have every now and then I'll have somebody that I'm doing on the stream, or if I'm in a private session, that's a different thing because we're directing and I'll say questions, right, and they'll give me questions. But when you're doing something like what I do on Tuesday, or what you do every day by putting stuff up about the day, it's kind of difficult to get into that mode. And it's like, I'm going to give you the best thing. I'm not going to say yes, no answers. I'm going to give you an involved answer that you need to do work on, because that's what it is. There's no easy button for this.
No easy button.
Make it easier for children who are around us going through this to build their gifts, but nothing's ever easy. You always have to put that work into it.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the books I'll be doing is helping them trust their intuition.
Yeah, they have to. They have to be allowed to trust their intuition. And sometimes, I'll admit, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to listen to it.
And understanding empathy, because I know a lot of us, because we're so sensitive, are very empathic. And so understanding that sometimes when you are next to someone that is extremely emotional, you're feeling their emotions. They're not yours. They are somebody else's. You're not crazy. You're not losing your mind. If you suddenly feel like you're going to cry when you don't have a reason to, well, there's either a spirit or a person in your life or near you that is probably at that level.
Right.
So this is things that aren't explained to children. I mean, I grew up where, I felt that all the time and I didn't understand what it was or words. Why do I feel this way today?
For us, it was like a hard knock life.
Yeah.
Because
We had to figure it out.
Yeah, we had to figure it out on it because even though my parents supported how I was, they didn't know what to do. I mean, they didn't. And I think I look back and I'm very grateful for like Lorraine and Ed Warren. I'm very grateful for like Rosemary Altea and Sandra Brown and some of these people that were writing books at the Echo Bodine. I love her. And those are books that, wow, they came out. It's like, oh, what's this? Wow, there's people like us. They can hear things. They can see things. That's amazing. So that's why I think your books are going to be such a huge impact. I think it's really a great thing that you're doing. And we all have to support our kids.
Yeah, right now with Leo and Gabe's Adventures, there's little life lessons in every single book for the kids to learn and understand. It's supposed to help build their confidence and remind them of certain things, morals and values, and because in today's world, I think that's more needed.
I think it's hard. I think it's very difficult to be a young person now, let alone a person that has gifts like he does.
I wouldn't want to be young in this life right now and how the world is right now. It would be so confusing.
It's hard for adults. I can't imagine what it would be for, I don't want to imagine, but I'm always around just like you're always around for our kids. So
yeah.
Well, guys, it's another Wednesday kind of wrapped, and next Wednesday you can bring your questions.
Past lives.
Yeah, we're gonna do past lives, right? I'm reading and doing at the same time. I have gone back to Pale Pink Hair Bear because I feel so much more confident and stronger than I ever have. That's awesome. Kay's been on a journey for herself. She's one of the people that I see a lot here, and we talk back and forth through Messenger, and she's across the pond, and she's really coming into herself. So I think it's great. Pink hair, purple hair, whatever, it's all great. So until next week, though, you guys put your questions together if you want about past lives, or if you feel that something is going on with you, that you feel you have a past life, and we are going to discuss it. Okay, so y'all have a good week. Oh, and I'm back tomorrow because Sean and Bex are just getting back from the Canary Islands with their kids, like really nice vacation, right? So Mama Bear is giving them another night off so that they can just chill when they get into the house. So I'll see you tomorrow, and both of us will see you next week. All right, guys. Love you tons. Thanks. Bye.